Tansei, I'm Krisanachkite. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime. A 10th person has now been charged in the death of 30-year-old Timothy Tootoosis, who is from the Poundmaker Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. 26-year-old Danica LaPlante was arrested last Tuesday and made her first court appearance in Saskatoon on Wednesday. She has been charged with first-degree murder, unlawful confinement, and offering an indignity to human remains. Tootoosis' remains were found in a home in Saskatoon on December 18th of last year, while Saskatoon police were executing a search warrant in a home in the 1700 block of 22nd Street West in the city's Pleasant Hill neighborhood. A total of 6 men and 4 women have been charged in the case, with their ages ranging from 22 to 45 years old. One of them includes Tootoosis' cousin Nikita Tootoosis, who has been charged with manslaughter. 9 have been charged with first-degree murder, and 6 of them have been charged with unlawful confinement and offering an indignity to human remains. This morning, Manitoba RCMP announced that they arrested and charged 27 people in the Bunabonabee Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, thanks to the RCMP's latest drug trafficking operation, Project Dairy. Project Dairy was launched 6 months ago by Manitoba's RCMP's integrated law enforcement team after several violent incidents occurred in Bunabonabee, including arson that destroyed the First Nations band office. Through their investigation, the RCMP said they uncovered a criminal organization that arranged the shipment, processing, packaging, and transportation of drugs into the community that included cocaine, oxycontin, fentanyl, and carfentanil. RCMP says some buyers thought they were purchasing oxycontin pills, but were instead given fentanyl, a more powerful and life-threatening drug. Float planes were also used to fly large quantities of alcohol to bootleg to residents. 51 charges have been laid against 27 people. 18 of those 27 people live in Bunabonabee, with the remaining from Thompson and Winnipeg. 33-year-old Luke Greaves, the suspected leader of the criminal network, was arrested while in Milner Ridge Correctional Center. RCMP say since the arrests, Bunabonabee has seen a 67% drop in the reduction of calls for service compared to last year. And our TR Wheatley will have more details in your evening news, including a number of suspects that have yet to be arrested. A longtime chief of the Thunder Bay Police Service has died. Dedicated more than 3 decades to policing in Thunder Bay, serving in leadership roles, criminal and drug investigations, and incident command, Levesque became Thunder Bay's 8th chief of police in 2011. During his time, he began a systemic review of the Thunder Bay Police Service, which concluded, among other things, that systemic racism existed at an institutional level. Levesque retired in 2018, just months after he was acquitted of charges of obstruction of justice and breach of trust. Levesque's successor, Sylvie Hoth, is currently facing 1 count of obstructing a public or peace officer, 1 count of breach of trust, and 2 counts of obstruction of justice. Hoth's charges go before the courts in April of next year. Ontario's police watchdog has found no reasonable grounds to believe a Anishinaabe-Aski Police Service officer committed a criminal offense in connection with the death of a 40-year-old man in Deer Lake First Nation this past summer. The Special Investigations Unit also says the officer's gunfire was a reasonable force of self-defense. Here's an update from our Dennis Ward.
Officers went to the residence in Deer Lake First Nation, 580 kilometers northwest of Thunder Bay, to take the man into custody on the strength of 2 arrest warrants. According to the SIU, the man grabbed 2 knives and refused to drop them, and kept going in and out of the home where women and children were present. The man, later identified to APTN News as Eric Nothing, eventually emerged from the home with 2 knives and his shirt on fire and ran towards a NAPS officer. The officer fired 5 shots. Nothing collapsed and was pronounced deceased at the nursing station. Nothing's death came nearly 1 year after his father, Bruce Frog, 57, was shot and killed by an Ontario provincial police officer in Anishinaabe Park in Kenora, Ontario on June 25, 2024.
Treaty 8 First Nations were in Ottawa on Thursday morning to voice their opposition to a memorandum of understanding signed between Ottawa and Alberta. Part of the MOU is a proposed pipeline from that province to the west coast of British Columbia. The MOU was signed last month by Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. The federal government has taken heat for not consulting coastal First Nations or the BC government before signing the MOU. The Treaty 8 chiefs say they were also not consulted. Terry Villebrun is the acting chief of the Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation in northern Alberta. She says the community is staunchly opposed to any pipeline project for this and other reasons.
To increasing production of tar sands by 100 million barrels a day. No to increasing toxic tailings in our backyard. No to lifting the tanker ban on the West Coast. And no to Pathways carbon capture. And no to the MOU within Alberta. We stand in solidarity with the coastal First Nations, and Prime Minister Carney would have known this if he had bothered consulting us.
This week, there are growing calls for the NDP government to repeal the province's Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous Peoples Act. It comes after a court ruling found some provincial laws were inconsistent with the act. As CTV's Rob Buffum reports, even the Premier is critical of the ruling, saying it's an overreach by the courts.
The Conservatives' new interim leader, Trevor Halford, wants the NDP to come back early from its Christmas holidays so the government can repeal DRIPA, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act.
I don't think that we can wait over 60 days until this legislature reconvenes.
The demand after a BC Court of Appeal ruling released Friday that found the province's mineral claim system was inconsistent with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The court also saying that BC should immediately incorporate the UN Declaration in all its laws. And where they are inconsistent, the province should get its laws in line with UNDRIP, and the courts can intervene if it doesn't.
Right now, we are in the absolute throes of uncertainty. That's across British Columbia.
Premier Eby says his government won't repeal DRIPA, but will make amendments to it.
When we set up the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act, we were very clear that this wasn't the territory of the courts. This is the territory of government negotiating with First Nations, setting the pace and choosing the laws to bring into alignment.
First Nations leadership say even amending DRIPA would hurt reconciliation.
If there isn't any amendments and there's any way that this waters down DRIPA, I think there are many First Nations will take it into their own hands and use every tool in their shed, if you will.
Friday's decision following the Cowichan Tribes case that has created uncertainty regarding property rights in Richmond prompted the Independent Contractors and Business Association of BC to also push for the province to immediately repeal DRIPA.
The very basic issue here is who owns the land and who has the right to make decisions on the use of that land. Now, that's fundamental to everything in our economy.
The Premier says the government is still reviewing the court decision and doesn't want to rush the amendment such that it could create further uncertainty. So don't expect politicians back here until mid-February.
Robert Buffum, CTV News.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how to continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to www.aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A recent federal court ruling is putting the federal government in the hot seat. The ruling states that Canada has a legally binding fiduciary duty to provide adequate on-reserve housing. At the forefront were two First Nations, one in northern Manitoba and the other in northern Ontario. With the details, here's T.R. Wheatley.
In this downtown Winnipeg office, the Ansinu Ugamawan Grand Council speaks about a recent landmark federal ruling about on-reserve housing.
They gathered evidence of moldy homes, frozen pipes, families in tents.
St. Teresa Point Chief Raymond Flett, the main plaintiff in the class action, says his community and many others have faced generations of broken promises dating back to the treaties.
Treaty leadership means fighting smart, fighting long, fighting together.
On December 5th, Justice Paul Favel ruled that Canada owes a legally binding fiduciary duty to provide adequate on-reserve housing.
Not to accept federal crisis response when Treaty 5 promised prevention. Not to settle for emergency measures when our elders deserve dignity. Not to watch another generation breathe black mold.
Known as the National First Nations Housing Class Action lawsuit, it had over 100 reserves opt in. In his decision, Favel said, homes on reserve are, quote, poorly constructed, unquote, and that many lack running water or sewage systems. Favel reviewed about 1,200 pages of evidence, including hearing from a dozen expert witnesses and a couple of dozen people who lived in the poorly constructed homes. Sandy Lake Chief Dolores Kakagamic was the co-plaintiff.
This is a victory for all First Nations. The court has said that it's time we work together. We invite Canada to do the right thing. Prime Minister, quit fighting us on this and build with us.
While this ruling is positive, the Ansinu Nation, more commonly known as the Island Lake region, is facing another crisis. Grand Chief Alex McDougall says the 4 isolated communities are facing a hepatitis A outbreak.
Higher prevalence of Hep A in Garden Hill currently. I think we had 8 and 9 confirmed cases, a fatality, and we have a number of cases in all of the Island Lake communities going through the same numbers.
Meanwhile, the federal government has 30 days to appeal the decision, something the Ansinu leadership say they've prepared for. However, if the feds don't appeal, the lawyers working this class action suit say they can start working on stage 2 by February, where they will determine Canada's breach of its duties on a First Nation by First Nation basis. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Efforts by not-for-profits to combat homelessness in Yellowknife are centering on the voices of those with lived experiences. And as Charlotte Morit-Jacobs tells us, that by sharing their insights into systemic barriers, they are helping themselves with new training possibilities on the horizon.
From a distance, it may appear informal, country food and conversation. But these ladies' lived experiences of being homeless in Yellowknife will inform programs geared towards ending their housing insecurities.
We have an advisory group of...
Almost everyone here had permanent housing at one point, but systemic barriers to maintaining it got in the way.
The price was too expensive, and not only that, like, having a spouse actually does help with the rent.
My roommates, they didn't pay rent for so long, so I ended up going to rental court, and just because I owe $4 grand for rent.
Yeah.
Since then, I've been going in and out, home center, sobering center.
I think like $22.50 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom apartment, and our arrears, it was like under $10,000. I got that paid off.
The city's most recent point-in-time count shows a significant rise in the unsheltered population.
And then I just started partying, and
addictions came into place.
Yeah, addictions came into took over, and I was supposed to go to a rental board or whatever, to see if I can keep my place, but I didn't go to that.
From the 2024 homelessness count data, 74% of individuals experiencing homelessness report substance use issues, and 41% say they struggle with mental health. And challenges may not end when women do secure housing.
And now I have an apartment, but doesn't feel like home. It's too scary because I'm not used to living like that. If a drug bust in Yellowknife, My freaking hall is crazy.
So what will come of these testimonies? That's where Elder Marie McGregor Pitawatakwat comes in. She serves as the chair to the National Indigenous Women's Housing Network.
This other little room here, this is the sleeping room.
She shared her experience being homeless with APTN in 2018, when she was forced from her home in Whitefish River First Nation over a proposed commercial development.
What brought me here was a project called Developing a Toolkit for Indigenous Women in Housing. And it's for Indigenous women to learn what is required in order to enter a trade, particularly housing, and what are the tools, what are the resources that we will need to have.
I was thinking about it like that, because I know I have a land, but what you said about pre-trades, yeah, you know, maybe they can just teach me how to just build a small box house, and then I'll start from there.
The prospect of training piques their interest. Data in hand, the network will now look at partnerships in the north to see what type of housing Indigenous women need and want, with hopes of starting culturally rooted training and building programs.
And when we can learn how to build our own homes again, we will need to know how to use the heating system, the energy system, the water system, how to take care of that home, because we've built it. And because we've built it, we have pride in ownership, and we have the responsibility, and we will be most willing to take care of our own homes again.
Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We now want to tell you about this week's 3 web poll questions. Over on our website, we ask, do you feel the court rulings will lead to real improvements in water access and housing for First Nations? You can answer yes, no, or unsure. Our second question is, are you confident essential services will be maintained while the federal government reduces its workforce? And the options are again, yes, no, or unsure. And lastly, we want to know, do you believe residential school denialism is growing in Canada? You can choose between yes, no, or unsure. Please go to our website at aptnnews.ca to have your say. We'll post the results next week. Our 12 Days of Indigenous Languages is up next, plus we'll tell you what our French viewers can expect on Bal National today. Stay with us. On the east coast, Charlottetown -6 and flurries, Halifax rain and -1. Anujiwak clear skies of -12, La Grande River -4. Val d'Or -9 and flurries, Saguenay showers and -8. Toronto -2, Sault Ste. Marie cloudy and -7. Sudbury partly cloudy and -9, Thunder Bay flurries and -9. Clear skies in Churchill at -18, Thompson -23. -21 in Winnipeg, Dauphin -25. Sun's out in Saskatoon at -30, Regina -27. -37 in Uranium City, La Ronge -29. Sun's out in Fort McMurray at -19, Peace River -16. Calgary -9, cloudy in Lethbridge at -5. Rain in Tofino at 10, Vancouver 9. -19 in Dease Lake, flurries in Prince George at 1. Old Crow -23, Whitehorse -20. -16 in Fort Simpson, Yellowknife -19. Paulatuck -13, Tuktoyaktuk -18. Baker Lake -22, Chesterfield -25. And Arctic Bay -29, Resolute -25. It's time again for our Christmas language segment. It's APTN National News version of the 12 Days of Christmas. And as today marks 8 APTN work days left until we are all on holidays, ooh, we bring you some Ojibwe teachings from right here in Manitoba.
My name is Ethel Straker. Ethel Dishnikas, Saing Doji, Mimi Zibing. I'm from Barons River. Mino Makshegi Jigan. That's a good one. I was going to go along the line of a traditional Christmas we used to have, or Christmas morning. Like, you know how some people wait for Christmas morning to open their gifts and stuff. With us, it was different because it was time to go house to house. It was almost like Halloween in a way because everybody would hand out candy to the kids. And then by the afternoon, that's usually when it would stop. Like, so you would have to get up in the morning. It was like an open house on the reserve, I guess. Like the adults would go to whoever they knew, I guess. They would go there for the main meal, and then they would go to another house for dessert, or another house for side dishes, that kind of stuff. Like after a while, people knew which ones had the best cabbage rolls, you know, or best meatballs, that kind of stuff. So, or else just fried bread and stuff like that. It was the same thing with New Year's, but with New Year's it was different. Like when you went to the house, you would have to kiss the owner and wish them a Happy New Year. Mino makushegijigan. Mino makushegijigan. I do a lot of baking with my grandkids. So, pakwejiganesek. Pakwejiganesek. There. Pakwejiganesek. That's what we make. One cookie is pakwejigan. Like they enjoy baking.
It's Friday, and that means that joining us now is our host of Bal National, Kim Sullivan. Tanse, Kim.
Hey, Creason.
Tell us what to expect on tonight's broadcast.
Well, as per usual, we packed a lot in our tiny 30 minutes. Our French viewers will get to hear about a unique publication that not only celebrates an anniversary, but also highlights the importance of Indigenous ways in education. And with that came the testimony of an Indigenous provincial minister who struggled herself through schooling. Her testimonial was inspirational, to say the least.
You also traveled into a community this week, I hear.
We did. We headed out to the smallest reserve in Canada. It's called Kakuna 22. It measures less than half of a football field. A small space, but big hearts, though. The council has been organizing for the last 10 years a distribution of Christmas baskets, full of goodies from the land for members who are mostly diaspora. So it was fun to be there and to see it in action.
I hear you even got a chance to help out.
It was freezing, Creason. So the only way of keeping warm in between my interviews was to help them pack those baskets. But in all honesty, it was amazing. I loved it.
Yes, for sure. And you end the show with an interview about mining exploration.
I actually do. It is a very interesting interview. The nation of Esipit is saying no to mineral exploration on their protected land. They explained to us the situation, but also how they are helping promoters along the way as well. So it is a good end of show interview.
Sounds like another great show. Thanks so much, Kim.
Join us tonight at 6:30 Eastern.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Friday, December 12th. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.